Alright, Shalom. Giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh. Bahasham Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Rachak Wadash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Wherever you may be, wherever you may be. Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Alright, let's get to Acts chapter 14. We'll start from the top. Well, obviously, first one, it says acceptance and opposition. So it says, and it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together into the synagogue of the Jews. Now remember, this is Paul and Barnabas on their first missionary journey, leaving off from what was the area, the Orontes of Antioch, Syria, and then I believe they left from off the coast. I forget what was coast city they left from, but then they went to Cyprus, all the way to Paphos, and then up into Pisidia, Pamphylia, and they're up in that general area now, all right, north of that Mediterranean, the areas, above, if you look at Cyprus on the map, and that sea there, what's north of that, they're in those particular areas there. Okay, and as a matter of fact, let's see if we can pull up Iconium. All right, Iconium, a famous city of Asia Minor, which was the capital of Lycaonia. All right, Iconium, excuse me, Lycaonia. We might be able to see. Let me see. Okay, yep, here we go. Perfect map. All right, so you see, this is what I mentioned there. Yep, that was the other place, Salamis. They left from over here in Syria, that area to the bottom right. They came over to Salamis in Cyprus and, taught the word across the island all the way to Paphos. From Paphos, they went up north, which they actually had John Mark with them. But when they left from Cyprus, John Mark went back to Jerusalem. They went further north. So you see all these areas here, Cilicia, Pamphylia, Derbe, Iconium, Antioch. Okay, so you get a general idea of, the area that they're in right now. All right, so I can blow it up right there. So Iconium, Antioch, Derbe, Lystra, that's the general area, which is Galatia. All right, so let's go back here. Can I back up? Okay, here we go. All right, so it says, and it came to pass in Iconium that they went both together into the synagogue of the Jews. All right, and in which obviously there was a gathering of Israelites. Okay, there was a synagogue here. And this also goes to show you had Israelites scattered, all right, into different areas. Once again, James 1:1 to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Peter mentioned the same thing at the top of I forget what chapter it is. Okay, I believe it's like 1 Peter 2 maybe. But at the top of one of those chapters, he mentioned the same thing, all right, of different areas. It's not important to get. Let's see if I can find it though. I haven't read that in a while. It might be 1 Peter or 2 Peter 1. Okay, let me see. It's one of these chapters of Peter. And I know it's not 3. So it's probably 1 Peter, if I'm correct. 1 Peter, it's 1 Peter 2. No, it can't be 2. Yep, 1 Peter 1, right? 1 Peter chapter 1. Peter, an apostle of Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, to the strangers, talking about Israelites, scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High, the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit, unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, grace unto you and peace be multiplied. All right, so he wasn't talking to everybody, okay? Well, he definitely wasn't talking to heathens, but that includes everybody. He was talking to Israelites that have been scattered abroad into different countries, all right? And that's the same thing we get when we read, where is it here? All right, James chapter 1, verse 1. James, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, all right? And as it just read in Peter, those strangers are Israelites who were scattered abroad, all right? And some of that scattering came from a persecution, a recent one anyways, all All right, what we spoke about, because we eventually start to follow Philip. All right, after that scattering, okay, because that was the execution of Stephen, and then everybody's kind of scattered, to different areas except for the apostles. They stayed at Jerusalem. All right, so as we go back, it says, they went both together into the synagogue of the Jews, and so spake that a great multitude, both of the Jews and also of the Greeks, believed. Now, we already covered this multiple times now. All right, these Greeks are talking about Israelites. I don't know if we can pull anything from here, but these Greeks are Israelites. All right, these aren't the actual, Greeks, the heathens. All right, there's that word Hellene. Okay, it says a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. It says, in a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. The primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship, which is somewhat close, but not exactly, accurate. All right. But you have, because when you go into the history, you have Israelites who are descendants of those that, forsook the Holy Covenant. And you can read about them, First Maccabees chapter 1. All right. And so they didn't grow up keeping our laws and customs and things of that nature. Okay. You had, perfect example, you had Cornelius, all right, a centurion of the Roman, of the Italian band, all right. It's a man in the Roman army. Okay. If he lived in Judea, he might have been living a different life. All right. Well, actually, not even that. If he was a descendant of those from the Hasmonean dynasty, he probably would have been living a different life. Right. But that was his lot. All right. To so the Lord can show his work. All right. And pretty much use him, beginning with him anyways, and that those servants of his household to start to call in those Gentile Israelites. But anyways, so it says they went together in the synagogue of the Jews, and so spake that a great multitude, both of the Jews and also of the Greeks, believe. All right, so we're talking about Israelites, as we mentioned before, no respect of persons. All right, that's what the Lord was doing when he was using Peter to call Cornelius back in to the fold. All right, you notice he said, it is an unlawful thing to keep company of that of another nation. Okay, he was talking about Israelites who were being called Gentiles. Right. So it says, but the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles. All right. So like I said before in a previous, chapter, you had non-believers of the uncircumcision, and you had non-believers of the circumcision, just like you had believers of the faith, or believers that had faith of the uncircumcision, and you had believers that had faith of the circumcision. And those are the ones that matter, all right? Because those are the ones who will be called together. Those that are of the faith, whether they be of the circumcision or the uncircumcision, they will all be called together under the faith in Yahweh Shai, all right? Because, they're all one, right? Neither Jew nor Greek. That's what that's going into. You're all Israelites, okay? And salvation is for all of you if you accept Yahweh Shai as the Lord and Savior. It says, but the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and made their minds evil affected against the brethren. Long time therefore abode they speaking boldly in the Lord, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace, and granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands. But the multitude of the city was divided, and part held with the Jews and part with the apostles. All right. So this is a natural thing back then, always having division amongst the Israelites. But this is more particular in dealing with how can I say it? It's pretty much what we just mentioned there. The circumcision not wanting any dealings with the uncircumcision. But this is slightly different, but somewhat the same. Okay. In other words, you had Israelites that still didn't accept other Israelites. All right, like it was up to them, and it's not. But so you have here a division. Those that stuck to what they knew. All right, that's what they believed. And then you have those who were accepting what the apostles were teaching. All right, Barnabas and Paul. It says, and when there was an assault made both of the Gentiles and also of the Jews with their rulers to use them despitefully and to stone them. All right, so it says they were aware of it and fled unto Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia. And remember, we pull up that map, so they're not too far off. I'm pretty sure there's a good distance between those cities, but geographically, those cities are not too far off. All right. So you see where all this everything that's happening right now is going down in these areas. They were aware of it and fled into Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and unto the region, excuse me, and unto the region that lieth round about. All right, so all the other areas too. It says, and there they, which is on that map was the general area of Galatia. But anyway, it says, and there they preached the gospel, right, to the places where they moved to. Okay, it says, and there sat a certain man at Lystra, impotent in his feet, being a cripple from his mother's womb, who never had walked. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceiving that he had faith to be healed. All right, and that's the key thing. Something Yahweh constantly harped on. All right, your faith, your faith, your faith. Okay, your faith had made thee whole. Okay, he said things like that because everything was going to be based on your faith in Yahweh, which the teachings were supposed to be enough, but if the teachings weren't enough, hey, the miracles alone, all right, just seeing the miracles, you should have believed. But yet you had people that like the what was the 5 loaves of bread and I forget how many was it 2 fish or something like that. Okay, you have people that were looking for him afterwards once again because he fed them, not because of what he taught, not because of the miracle, which feeding them was a miracle, but it was because of the food, not the actual miracle or anything that he taught, man. So you just had Israelites, who were tripping, man. You only had a small remnant who actually wanted to hear the word and believe the miracles and believe the testimonies. It says the same heard, and that was, not too far back, but it was speaking on Yahweh time. It says, the same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him and perceived that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, stand upright on thy feet, and he leaped and walked. And once again, this is what I mentioned before. Our forefathers were operating at a way, way higher spiritual level than us, man, back in those days, because all it took was a few words, okay? And Yahushua, now it wasn't said directly to Paul or Barnabas, because it wasn't, them that were around at this time. All right, we're talking about the apostles, who were his disciples at the time, but he said that greater works than these shall you do, just roughly paraphrasing exactly how he said it. Not exactly how he said it, but, roughly paraphrasing what he said, okay? And so that wasn't just to the apostles alone, or those apostles alone, because, obviously, Paul and Barnabas here also being called apostles, all right, because they were sent away on this missionary mission, okay? But anyways, the point being, everything that Yahweh was able to do, okay, you have the apostles able to do the same thing with just a few words, man. Okay, it didn't take much, just a few words. So it says, he said with a loud voice, this is Paul, stand upright on thy feet. Okay, what's that? 5 words. Stand upright on thy feet. And it says, and he leaped and walked. Not just get up, he leaped and walked. Okay, so he probably stood and jumped up and down like, what in the world is going on here? But he had faith, all right? He knew that, okay, if this is a man of the Lord, and then he's also able to heal me like that, like the Lord could if he was here. And so that faith that he had, and Paul performed the miracle there, and paired up with his faith, he was healed, and he jumped up and leaped, and so on and so forth. So verse 11 says, and when the people saw that when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. Now, I try to research. I'm not really sure because nothing really comes up, about the speech of Lycaonia, like exactly what particular language that was they were speaking. But, it's not really important. But anyways, so it says, but I did try to look into that. I can't remember. It was sometime recent, maybe like last week or something. But there's not much that comes up from that. It says when the people saw that what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. And this is very important as we continue forward, because as a matter of fact, let me grab this. Let's do this. Let's just read something instead. So you go to Deuteronomy 4, 4 to 15. Yeah, 15. So it says, Deuteronomy 4 and 15, it says, take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that Yahweh spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female. All right. So this is going back to one of the first commandments in Exodus, all right, chapter 20, where it says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Okay. And it goes on to say that I'm a jealous power. Now it says, lest you corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image and make you, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, all right, the sun, the moon, the stars, including the angels, okay, it says, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which Yahweh thy power hath divided unto all nations under the heaven. So these things, the heathens, like it says in Jeremiah 10, learn not the way of the heathen, okay? And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. These things are for the heathens to do. But Israelites, especially given, different captivities or general areas of lifestyle that they grew up in, they were taking after and partaking in the things that the heathen nations would do. And one of those things being, idol worship and, these gods, right? Because what you see here, yeah, we can go back because it mentions a couple names here, okay? Because you have the Romans who were in power, who were Edomites. And before that, you had the Greeks who were in power, who were also Edomites. And so you have Greek gods. And then when the Romans come into power, it's the same gods, all right, just given, a transition of name or whatever. All right. So that's why you have, when you look up and research the Greek gods, you always have a Roman equivalent because they were both Edomites. All right. So it's the same gods transferred to the next kingdom, but it's still the same people. Okay. So that's why you have whatever Greek god, you have the same god in the Romans, but they're just given a different name, whether a god or a goddess. Either way, they're just given a different name. Okay, so it says, and they called Barnabas. As a matter of fact, let me read this in AMP because sometimes it'll go very straightforward with the AMP. What verse was it on? Okay, yeah, right here. So it says, Verse 11 says, and the crowds, when they saw what Paul had done, raised their voices, shouting in the Lycaonian language, the gods have come down to us in human form. They began calling Barnabas Zeus, chief of the Greek gods, you see? And then it says, and Paul Hermes, messenger of the Greek gods, since he took the lead in speaking. All right. And when you, as a matter of fact, let me see. Let me grab the NLT because I'm going to actually go back to the KJV. Same thing here. They decided that Barnabas was the Greek god of Zeus, and that Paul was Hermes since he was the chief speaker. There you go. Same thing there. All right. When the crowd saw what Paul had done, they shouted in their local dialect, these men are the gods in human form. Okay. And so, excuse me, you had Israel washed up in this nonsense, man. But they really truly believed it, man. And there's nothing that you can tell them otherwise. So as we go back down here, because Paul healed this crippled man, they it wasn't, a secret thing that happened. All right. And so, where's my verse here? Okay, here's down below. Right. So it says, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of, let's get the word likeness real quick. Oyo, I'm not sure. Be made like, to liken, compare, illustrate by comparisons. All right. So it says, and they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius because he was the chief speaker. Now remember, what I just mentioned there, you have the Greek god or goddess, and then you have the Roman equivalent, which is the same god or goddess with a different name. Because as we just read the other translation, All right, it says the Greek god Zeus, but here you have Jupiter because in the Roman culture, Zeus is known as Jupiter, and that's what they call Barnabas. Because Barnabas was obviously a more austere man, probably quiet, not saying too much, obviously because Paul was doing all the speaking and everything. He did the miracle and whatnot. So Jupiter, see, or Zeus. It says the national god of the Greeks and corresponds to the Roman Jupiter. You see, um, let's pull up Jupiter. Since it says Jupiter here, I was going to pull up Zeus. Either way, it's going to make the same point. Not the planet. Okay. Zeus, Jupiter was the Roman god of the sky and of thunder. As the chief Roman god, he was the king of a pantheon of dozens of deities, including Neptune, Mars, and Venus. The deity Jupiter was closely connected to the Greek deity Zeus. All right, so I really want to see. I'll probably have to punch it in. I mean, because the point is obviously clear. All right, just by those translations alone. Whatever you had in the Greek culture, you had it in Roman culture. It was just by different names. That's it. It's the same God over and over, or God or goddess, just with a different name. That's all. Transition of power, but it's still the same people, which is why the gods are the same. So you see all of this here. It's the same thing, man. And let me go back here. It says, and Paul Mercurius, okay, and it was the Greek. It was Hermes, okay. And here you have in this scripture, right? In what the book of Acts here, at this time period, you had pretty much the Romans in power. So Hermes, messenger of the Greek deities, also of a Christian Hermes Mercury. All right, we'll probably pull up Hermes Mercurius or Hermes, herald of the gods. Yeah, herald meaning what? Okay, you come. Let me see here. A Greek deity called by the Romans Mercurius or Mercury. Okay, so you have the person that will come and blow the trumpet and, speak, or not necessarily have to blow a trumpet, but I'm just making a point. Like basically like John the Baptist was for Yahushua. He was the forerunner for Yahushua. He was telling everybody about Yahushua's coming. Okay. Or Silver Surfer. All right. What did he do for Galactus? He went around to save his own planet, his people. He would go around and find planets for Galactus to eat. And so he would be that herald that would come to the Earth, or not Earth, but that particular planet before Galactus got there. All right, he was the guy that was about to introduce Galactus to this planet so he can eat it, to keep Galactus from eating his own planet. It's the same thing. A herald, a person that will go before the big man, in other words, for lack of better words. See, an official messenger bringing news, a person or thing viewed as a sign that something is about to happen. You see, exactly what we just explained there, especially with the Silver Surfer thing. Okay, and we're heralds for Yahushua. Okay, we're telling the world that Yahushua is coming. Okay, did we punch up Hermes? Let's get Hermes real quick. Not Hermes. Hermes, right, is an Olympian deity in ancient Greek religion and mythology, considered the herald of the gods. He is also widely considered the protector of human something. I just pull it up real quick. Get off the screen. Of human heralds, travelers, thieves, merchants, and orators. Yeah, speakers. All right, those that stand up and give bright speeches. He is able to move quickly and freely between the worlds of the mortal and the divine, aided by his winged sandals. Hermes plays the role of a psychopomp or soul guide, a conductor of souls into the afterlife. All right, so you see what I get that off the screen. So you see what these Israelites here were slumped into. See, public speaking, also called oratory, is the practice of delivering speeches to a live audience, and that's why they called Paul Hermes, all right, or Mercury. Okay, and they called Barnabas Zeus or Jupiter, all right, because Paul was doing all the speaking. So they thought that Paul was the man that was pretty much forerunning Barnabas, okay? So it says, And they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius because he was the chief speaker. You see? It says then the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen, which this priest was, I'm pretty sure this was an Israelite, okay? This was an Israelite. It says the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates, which a garland is like one of those head wreaths. I believe it's usually ivy leaves, like, let's see if we can pull it up real quick. Those little head things that, you see the Greeks and Romans wearing, okay? And it will usually be ivy leaves, if I'm correct. It'd be ivy leaves. They even have wreaths. One might pop up. Like these Christmas people, they put wreaths on their door. That's a bigger, different version of a wreath, but that's what people are doing. They putting the wreaths on their door around Christmas time. All right. But originally this thing, let's see if we can find, let's go to the images. It's something that will, there you go. You see, that was placed on the head. That Christmas tree pops right up. Yeah, there you go. See, wreath. All right. So you see both the head and then what people put on their doors. All right. And, the average person doesn't know what these things go back to. And they don't want to know what it goes back to. Okay. You can tell them to research something. They're not going to do it. They're going to walk off and think you're crazy and never look into it. And probably be offended if you call them a pagan. But they don't understand the customs that you follow stem from, these things. Man, my battery's dying. I didn't get the chance to charge my phone up last night. I fell asleep. Here it is. Look, a crown, a mark of royal or in general exalted rank, the wreath or garland which was given as a prize to victors in public games, right? Because when you when you go into the book of Maccabees, they talk about the Greek games. Okay, you have the Olympics that originated, if I'm correct, that was Athens, Greece. All right, in the apocrypha it mentions discus. All right, remember that was a game. I believe they probably still do that. It's been a while since I watched the Olympics. A good while. But yeah, all these, a lot of these different games originated there, okay? And then you even had the Roman games, okay? Which the Romans love their Colosseum. Like in Gladiator 2, they show you, if those things were realistic, they show you other versions of things that were going on in the Colosseum for entertainment, all right? Which I believe that that portion there where everybody was fighting on ships, okay? That was a game too, and it was supposed to be a rendition of like real ship battles. So I forgot the name of it. It's like some N word. Okay, I forgot the name of it. All right. But anyways, that was supposed to be, it's basically, it's straightforward, real games. But of course, with the Colosseum, it was supposed to be meant to death or be to death. But I was just making a point of, you have Greek games, you have Roman games, you got America today with football games, basketball games, and whatever else. All right. Give them bread and circus. Says metaphorically the eternal blessedness which will be given as a prize to the genuine service of the Most High and the Messiah, the crown or wreath. Well, that's what Stephan's name is. I believe Stephan's main name. I believe that was up above, wasn't it? Yeah, Stephanos. Stephan, crown. All right. And the Lord talks about the 144,000 men being crowned as kings and being joint heirs with them for 1,000 years. Which that doesn't mean that after that they're not going to be kings anymore. Just that means, that 1,000 years is a special time period. But then afterwards, they're still going to continue on being kings. All right, so let's go back. It says, then the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen and garlands unto the gates and would have done sacrifice with the people, which when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of, they rent their clothes and ran in among the people crying out. Yeah, because like we just read in Deuteronomy chapter 4, man. Okay. So it says, and saying, sirs, why do you these things? We also are men of like passions with you. Okay. So it's basically saying, look, we're not gods, man. We're men just like you. And, we serve the Most High power. Okay. Which is what you're supposed to be doing. But, you're serving, gods that don't exist. So check this out. It says men of like passions with you, sufferings and things. Let's see if I can pull up the word passions. I'm trying not to do too much because battery is dropping. Suffering the like with another of like feelings or affection. You see? All right. We also, like in the word, it's called the Passion of the Christ, that movie that they made and stuff like that. The passion goes into suffering. So it says, we also are men of like sufferings, passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living power, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all things that are therein, who in times past suffered all nations to walk in their own ways. All right. Man, I forget there was a scripture that's man, I forget what it is. I'm not gonna try to harp on it right now. But there was a scripture I think that was talking about that. Um, but anyways, it says, nevertheless, he left not himself without witness, in that he did good and gave us rain from heaven and fruitful seasons, filling our hearts with food and gladness. And with these things scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrifice unto them. Right. So they was like, this dude is tripping, because you have to see, to really get the gist of this situation, you have to see it from the standpoint of those Israelites, all right, who were worshiping those gods and goddesses. All right. So they're basically thinking like what's that movie? The one movie Troy. I forget what the prince's name was, but he was like, bird sight. You want to face the put the future of this nation based on bird sights. And he was like, do not mock the gods, his father. Right. So it was no different than that, man. So they're thinking like, oh, these guys are tripping. Stop surfing the gods. But because you have to understand, that's what they knew. That's what they did. Okay. They were going off, but that's what they knew. So when you see it from their standpoint, you can understand why they started to trip like that, even though they were wrong, but you get the point. Okay, so it says, and with these sayings, since so scarce restrained they the people, that they had not done sacrifice unto them. And there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead. Yeah, and this is probably that where Paul mentions 2 Corinthians chapter 12. I believe that's it. Yep. Verse 2 says, I knew a man in the Messiah above 14 years ago, whether in the body I cannot tell, or whether out of the body I cannot tell. God knoweth. Such an one caught up to the third heaven, basically to the heavenly realm. And I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell. The Most High knoweth. How that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such an one will I glory, yet of myself I will not glory, but in mine infirmities. All right. So this is basically Paul, as he said 14 years ago. So this is 14. What we just read was 14 years after what we're reading right here. Okay. This is probably the same account where when he was stoned, because Paul was stoned to death. But, it wasn't, this was basically still the beginning of his journey, man. This was the first missionary mission. All right. So this is the beginning of his journey. Okay. Which isn't the first time that he, been come up against, but this is the first time he been come up against and they actually got to him. Okay. And they stoned him to death. All right. But, the Lord brought his spirit back in his body. So let me get this off the screen. It says it says, and there came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing he had been dead. Howbeit, as the disciples still round about him, he rose up and came into the city, and the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe. You see? So he got up, all right? The disciples surrounded him, all right? The Spirit was on him, brought him back to life. He got up and he skedaddled, man. So it says, and when they had preached the gospel to that city, and had taught many, they returned again to Lystra and to Iconium and to Antioch. So they returned to some of these same cities, man. All right. Basically just traveling and preaching the gospel. All right. It says, confirming the souls, which is a verse that we constantly quote here, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must, through much tribulation, enter into the kingdom of the Most High. All right, which goes along with, this account there, with what just happened to him. But, we quote that scripture, because it's a good scripture for these modern days, because we all go through stuff. All right, the whole body. Okay. So, everybody needs that booster from time to time. All right, to keep going. All right, it ain't over yet. So it says, and when they had ordained them elders in every church and had prayed with fasting, they commended them, it says, to the Lord on whom they believed. All right. So that's what it's all about. Trusting, fearing the Lord, number one, and trusting and believing in the Lord. All right, which is through your faith in Yahweh Shah. But anyways, continue on. It says, and after they had passed throughout Pisidia, they came to Pamphylia, which they were before. All right. I believe they started when they came up to these northern parts. That's the first place they went to, if I'm correct. That was the first place they went to. And once again, like you just said, they went here, there, and back to some of those same cities again. And now they're back into another city that they already visited. All right. But Pisidia, Pamphylia. It says, and when they had preached the word in Perga, they went down into Italia. All right. Um, let's see if we can get these. I'm trying not to take too long here because my battery is dropping fast. I had to get to a charger. Pergamum, the earth, the Italian Pamphylia on the river Cestius, at a distance of 7 miles from its mouth, and famous in antiquity for the worship of Artemis. Ooh, see, there's more that Greek gods and goddesses and stuff going on. All right, Artemis or Diana. Artemis in the Greek, I believe it is, and Diana would be in the, that Roman equivalent. Same goddess, but the Roman name to that goddess there. All right, and it says Italia. Oh, I meant to pull it up on a map. Right. It says a maritime city of Pamphylia. So this has to be a port city in Asia, very near the borders of Lycia, built and named by Attalus Philadelphus, king of Pergamus, now called Antali. I got to look this up real quick. I wanted to find out the general area there. Attalus II Philadelphus, born 220 BC, died 138 BC, Pergamon, Turkey. So this guy here. Attalus II Philadelphus was a ruler of the Attalid kingdom of Pergamon and the founder of the city of Italia. It's probably just bringing up more images of him. Yeah, I figured that. I didn't think it was gonna pull up the map. It's okay. Come on. All right, let me back up. Let's do this instead. I'll try to be quick about it. Let's pull up. See if we can pull up Perga. And we should generalize Perga around Italia somewhere if it comes up. Whoa, it's blurry. Perg, ancient city. Let me go to images here. Okay, so you see right there, Perg and Italia is not too far. Italia not too far from each other. But let's see if we can find a bigger map. That's too blurry. I was trying to find it, the general location from those other areas that they were before. Here we go. Actually, no. Well, yeah, I guess it's good. Yep. So they went. They were going west. All right. So from where those other areas, what the account we just read, from here they went west because you see Perga and then Italia. So they went west. Okay. So we have a somewhat of a general idea of where they are. Okay. I almost dropped my phone. So it says, and when they had preached the word in Perga, they went down into Italia, and thence sailed to Antioch, from whence they had been recommended to the grace of the Most High for the work which they fulfilled. Right? Because they went to a bunch of cities there, and some of them they visited more than once. It says, and when they were come and had gathered the church together, they rehearsed all that the Most High had done with them, and how he had opened the door of faith unto the Gentiles. Yeah. Because as they preach, you have to remember they were going around to all the Gentiles, man. Okay, and so so yeah, they were because which goes back to what we just read there, the stoning and everything. These were Israelites who had no idea of the customs and the laws and things of that nature. All right, and so they thought that Paul and Barnabas were the ones that were wicked. All right, and so they stoned Paul. All right, he's talking against the gods. Get him, kill him. All right. So yeah, but these, once again, you have to remember that these are Gentiles. They did not grow up with the customs of the circumcision. They didn't know the laws and so on and so forth. All right. That's why we keep mentioning the scripture where it says you're supposed to be a light to the Gentiles. All right. But those circumcision rejected those Gentiles, but it was still part of Paul's mission. That's what Yahweh set them up for, beginning with Peter opening the door. And then it was put into the hands of Paul, man, directly. Paul and Barnabas, but it continues mostly with Paul, to go around and wake up all the Gentiles, man. That was his specific mission. Okay. So it says, and when they were come and had gathered the church together, they rehearsed all that the Most High had done with them, and how he had opened the door of faith unto the Gentiles, and there they abode long time with the disciples. All right. So it was a very actually short chapter. Pretty much straightforward there, especially when you understand it, the Israel and Gentiles. So not much to say there. So we can end it there. Lord, will you edify? Shalom.